Producer Mike grabbed this on our last visit to Daiso. If you've never been to one of those, it's a chain of Japanese stores similar to Dollar Tree. But rather than $1, most items are a buck 50. Apparently, there were other styles available. I didn't see them. I didn't even see this one. Guess I was too distracted by the kitchen containers. That was a fun day. There's nothing like a bag of dollar store stuff for feeling like you got value for money. Plus, I can always find something useful or at least interesting at Daiso. This is a 3D coloring card. I'm pretty sure it's not intended for watercolors. It's cardstock with a slight coating, making it more suited to markers, really. It's not glossy or anything, but it's not exactly matte either. Outside of some black and gray pens, I don't have markers, so I figured watercolor it is, and just hoped for the best. So, the year we had a record-breaking triple-digit heat wave was the year our air conditioning unit conked out, like just 3 days before. So we had to get creative with our cooling measures. Thank goodness we never lost power, or we might have succumbed to the summer of 21. You don't really appreciate box fans and popsicles until you get heat-domed. The saddest part for us was that a long-held illusion was shattered. Over the last 13 years, Producer Mike was convinced that I'd never sweat. An occasional ladylike sheen, yes. Pouring perspiration, no. So last week must have been a rude awakening, since he got to come home to find me slack-jawed on the couch with a Frog Togs Chili Mini wrapped around my head and wearing my outgrown Hello Kitty t-shirt stained with under-boob sweat. But I suppose after a shock like that, Death Valley temperatures were a walk in the park. Here's my hand-me-down Kuretake Gansai Tambi set. If you've seen any reviews for these paints, you've probably heard that they differ from North American and European watercolors. They dry rather brittle and need more water for transparency, but they're such fun to work with. Spoiler, this particular project doesn't show these paints off at their best. So if these paints interest you, check out my older swatching video from last year. Just click on the icon in the upper right of the screen. This is the 24 color set, and they have a 36 color set available as well. But since coming out with 12 new colors a while back, they created a 48 color box. I've had my eye on it, but I can't really justify the purchase. I noticed there's also a compact travel kit that holds 14 half pans in an attractive plastic palette. I mean, I like the size of these pans, but I'm guessing they'd be awkward for plein airing. I decided early on that I didn't want to spend 3 hours coloring in every little detail, so I applied large swaths of color where I could get away with it, and also where I couldn't get away with it. It's a mess, I know. I have eyes, I can see that. Maybe you can tell, maybe not, but this cardstock had a very slight coating, so it wasn't absorbent. It didn't suck up the paint. The experience was closer to a hot-pressed paper since it was a very smooth surface. You could probably use colored pencils, but it wouldn't be my first choice. Like I said, I think markers would be the best option. And I shouldn't have used straight black, but I didn't want to do a lot of mixing. That wasn't a good idea. Once you put things together on the base piece, you don't see all of the cards since they're placed one in front of the other. Some areas are obscured and you don't see all of the messiness. I didn't stress too much over it, but it is an interesting effect. On this one, I like how it looks like an evening scene with the dark blue going on. And then I used another color strategically placed to bring things forward a bit. Yeah, Tokyo, one of these days. Bucket list. Of course, if I ever get to Japan, Tokyo would be a must-see. Not least of all for the Disney theme parks. Tokyo Disneyland and Tokyo Disney Sea. I understand that Tokyo Disney Sea is considered by many park fans as the best theme park in the world. All I know is they have the cutest snacks, if the Dancing Bacon's channel is to be trusted. Little green alien mochi, I must have you. This is my favorite of the cards. Not the coloring, but the image. It's my favorite scene. It might not be apparent, but the reason I switched from card to card, back and forth, was to allow for drying. Things were messy enough without having wet colors bleeding into each other. And this is my least favorite card. What was I thinking? I used to really be into jigsaw puzzles years ago. I liked the Springbok ones that were carried at Hallmark stores. This cartoony style here reminds me of the Verticalville series of jigsaw puzzles. Verticalville was a montage of people and buildings and vehicles all crammed together, making a fun cityscape of sorts. The first one was 500 pieces, I think, but those weren't very challenging. I liked the 700-piece panoramic format of Verticalville 2 because that fit on my coffee table. The 1,500-piece space station took up the whole width of my dining table, so that was the biggest I could go. Those were fun because they had so much detail, like these, but on a larger scale. Here they had warped, so I was just bending them back to get them flat again. After looking at it this way, I didn't care for this arrangement. I needed to obscure that awful pink and black piece, so a little later I switched a couple of the panels, and it actually made a big difference. Yeah, it's just a silly little card, but placement is key. Yeah, that's better. I'm happy to share this experience with you. It's better I shared this than my heat-induced hives. By the way, a round of high fives to all who endured Heat Dome 2021. If I were smart, I'd have sold t-shirts commemorating the event. Sure, this kit only cost a couple of dollars, but it was a good $5 worth of fun. I call that a bargain. Until next time, stay artsy, my friends.